Hello everyone, Jared here and welcome to my first video here in Shanghai, starting off with Disneyland. So it took a while for us to get here and we had some hassles trying to get in here, which I'll talk about in a little bit. But right now, just know we're here to have fun. It's gonna be great going around. Here's the castle behind me and let's go and explore together. We arrived early at the park via shuttle bus from our hotel, and then proceeded to the white dotted area at the bottom of the map, which is their version of downtown Disney. Rather than go to the main gate, we were going to get into the park early via our concierge passes. Be prepared to wait in this small line that you see here, where they check out your passes before letting you in, and this line can take a few minutes. Once you actually get here with the concierge service, then they take you into this lobby and help you plan your day, and that's what we're about to do next. Unfortunately, what we didn't realize was that waiting for these guys to finish helping you can take quite a bit longer than you think. Alright, we are inside the park finally. It only took us an hour later than what we were thinking it was going to take, or maybe half an hour. So that's unfortunate, but we're finally here, and now we're gonna go see what we're gonna do first. Probably head over to the Pirates area. Alright, this is the first stop for us here at Disneyland. We're gonna go over to Treasure Cove. The moment that you walk into the park, you actually realize this park looks like it's a lot bigger than the Magical Kingdom back in California. And despite its massive size, there really isn't that much to go do. Since we had our concierge pass, that meant we were able to go choose some rides that we could get into early. And of course, the one that we wanted to go into the most was Pirates of the Caribbean. Once you get on the ride, you quickly realize that there's a lot of similarities to the one in the US, what with the boat ride and all, but the story is completely different. They have a whole lot of green screens where you get to see all kinds of special effects and battles happening around you. You even get to see the Kraken. And then, probably the strangest aspect of going to any Disney park in another country is when you hear other characters from these franchises that normally speak English being dubbed over with another language, in this case, Mandarin. So, here you go. You get to hear what Chinese versions of the characters sound like. Alright, so that was it for the Pirates ride. Hope you enjoyed seeing what that's like. Only splashed me at one time, but maybe you'll feel a little more if you're on the outsides, I'm not sure. Anyways, we're gonna go ahead and try to get to soaring now before it ends up being too crowded. So let's go. We were actually very lucky that we ended up having our free fast pass as part of the concierge pass, because if we hadn't, you can see by looking at the screen that the line, even though the park had just been open for maybe 10-15 minutes, the wait was already up to over 2.5 hours. I wouldn't envy anyone who stood in line for that long just to see this ride. Already inside, past where the line takes us for most people for soaring. Let's go ahead and see what this one's about. Once we got to the chamber right before the ride actually begins, we were greeted by a magician lady who was going to turn into a bird and show us various parts of the world. And I have to say that this ride ultimately is not very much worth the wait, because while it does show you parts of the world that maybe you haven't traveled to before, most of this stuff is something you can easily find on the internet and you don't have to wait in very long lines for to see. So, soaring, I can tell you, is not really geared towards foreign tourists. It's definitely designed towards Chinese tourists. And the reason I can say this is because they don't get to explore the world as much as we do. But because of that, it's geared towards showing them things around the world. Whereas for us, what we come here to see is more of China. So if you're looking to see a lot of China on that ride, you're not going to see it. You're really just going to get to see a lot of the Great Wall. And that's about all of China that you see. You just see other places after that. So let's go ahead, get the sun out of my eyes, and we'll go see the rest of what we can see here at Disney. After wandering around for a little bit, we quickly came to realize that there aren't many rides to actually see here. Instead, you get to see a lot of restaurants, and you happen to come across random drums, just like I was playing right in this clip. But then we decided to go over to the castle again, and this castle is undoubtedly the best of all the Disney castles because not only is it the largest, but it's also got a restaurant on the second floor, as well as a shop on the first floor, and you can just look around at all the screens, do a 360 panorama, much like I'm doing in this video, and then you can also look up towards the ceiling, and you'll find that it just spirals and spirals all the way to the roof. I particularly liked this dragon that was in one of the shops. Anyways, we then left the castle and decided we would head back to the courtyard where I shot the initial video footage from the very beginning of this video. And while we were in this courtyard, what we decided to do was look around and see if there was anything worth doing. But all we found was this zodiac wall where you're able to take a picture next to whatever your zodiac animal is. And it's a great place to get bitten by bugs. Now we are going to the main street, and we're going to go through the shops and see what they have. If there's anything different, then you'll see something right after this. If not, well then, you know there wasn't anything specific for Shanghai. For the next little bit, I'm going to go ahead and let this part of the video speak for itself. Well, I hope some of those looked interesting to you. Next, we were off to Fantasyland and to go on the Peter Pan ride. Finished the Peter Pan ride. I can tell you it's pretty much the same as it is back home, except I think that they've updated some of the graphics or animations or something like that. They've changed it a little bit, but it's practically the same ride. So behind me is Troubadour Treats. This is where we're going to go ahead and have our lunch. So what was our lunch, you might ask? Well, they said it was a bento box, a chicken bento box, but once we opened it, it didn't really look very much like a bento box, except it had dividing sections and cute little Mickey Mouse ear dishes. So it appears that there is a Frozen sing-along celebration that they have here. So if you really like Frozen, this might be the place to do it. But then again, if you don't know Chinese, it might not be the best idea because it'll be the Frozen songs in Chinese. This is Merlin's magic recipe, which is the exact same as the Troubadour place that we just went to. So some of these places, even though they have different names, they sell the same exact foods. This is the difference between the Mad Hatter's, what is it, a teacup ride in Disneyland, I think? Yeah. And here it is Pooh's Honey Pots. So they changed the theme, and now we're going to see how different it is as a ride, although I think it's probably the exact same thing. I do like the roof, though. Look at that. And next was the last part of Fantasyland. It was one of the 2 rides that I had been waiting for most of the day just to save towards the end of the trip at Disney because I really enjoy roller coasters. We are now heading over into the mining cart ride. We're going to see how this one is. It looks like one of the best rides here, an actual roller coaster. So we're going to check this one out. Here we go! The mining cart ride is, I think, a little bit of an improvement over the Thunder Mountain ride that we had back in the US. I think there were a few more ups and downs and turns, but maybe that's just because I haven't been on it in a long time. Felt a little faster. Anyways, that and Pirates so far have been the 2 best rides. And we are making our return now to the Pirates of the Caribbean ride because it's hot and we need to cool down, so there's no real better place to do this unless you go on the water ride. Here we have the Rapids ride behind us. Not actually going to go on it because I don't want to get all wet today, but if you want to cool off during the summer, it's perfectly fine for you to go and do this ride. It just might be a little bit of a wait. So after doing 2 loops around the same side of the park, we decided we would go over to around where we entered. And the first of these areas that's around where we started was the Marvel Universe, which, as its name reveals, is obviously the place where you get to see your comic book heroes, and particularly, it focuses on the Avengers. If you're someone who enjoys the Avengers franchise, well then, this is probably going to be a place that you'll enjoy being in, because you get to see some people dressed up as superheroes and take pictures with them, and you also get to see some props that were used in the film, such as the Iron Man suits, as well as this one, the Hulkbuster. There's a tiny section dedicated to Guardians of the Galaxy as well. Here we are, now at Tomorrowland, or as it could otherwise be known as, Mosquito Land. Anyways, let's go ahead and see what's inside. Ultimately, there really isn't very much here at Tomorrowland yet, and from what I can tell, there's really only the Buzz Lightyear ride and my favorite ride of the entire park, the Tron Ride. If you're someone who was a fan of the original Tron or the Tron Legacy movie that came a lot later, then you'll probably really enjoy this if you're also a roller coaster fan. If you're someone who enjoys Daft Punk and their soundtrack in the movie, you get to hear it while you're waiting in line for the ride, and the visuals in this part are stunning. I would have footage of this ride, however you have to store all loose articles away, so you're not able to take photos of this, unfortunately. Alright, we just finished the Tron ride. I think it's probably the fastest roller coaster that they have at a Disney park, period. So if you like that, you might want to go on it. Other than that, it's not necessarily the most comfortable ride if you're someone who wears glasses. It's also not possible for you to wear your glasses during the ride, so they make you take it off. Be aware of that for when you come here. Now blinded by the oncoming sunlight, we decided to move on to the next section of the park. And now here we have Toy Story Land. I think this one's just meant for little kids. And once you step in here, you quickly realize that that is exactly what this place is for. Although the Connect's kind of configuration of the walls and the way that they design the area is kind of neat, it really isn't for adults. Get enough teacups at one spot? Well, you can go here for it again. It's a very quick pass-through for anyone who doesn't have children with them, and the Mr. Potato Head they have here in Shanghai Disneyland doesn't even compare to what's in Japan. Having gone through all there was to see in the park aside from the fireworks at night, we decided that before dinner it was time to leave. And ultimately, I guess now it's time for me to give a summary of my experience at this Disneyland. I've been to 3 around the world now, and I've seen what all but the one in France looks like. And while the food may be unique to each location, just like it is here, the park itself is actually very underwhelming compared to the other Disneylands. When you take a look at this map of the Shanghai Disneyland area, you quickly realize that there is no train that goes around, which makes it more difficult transportation-wise for those who are handicapped, and the area, although it seems big, really doesn't have that much to it, at least for now. If you were to look at the map of the original Disneyland, the way it is right now, you can see that the original Disneyland has many more areas to it. Even though it's in a smaller area, it has a lot more rides and more to do and see and eat at than you will find in the Shanghai Disneyland. To give you an idea of how different the original Disneyland park is to the one in Shanghai Disneyland now, what you do is you take away Galaxy's Edge, just like this, then you take away Mickey's Toontown, followed by Critters Country, New Orleans Square, and ultimately this is the map that you are left with. Can you imagine if Disneyland was like this in California today? Would people be there all day just like they are now? Maybe. But let's go ahead and look back at the Shanghai map now. So you can see it has a lot of unused land that could still be developed into future projects. They have a lot of potential, but for what's there right now, it isn't necessarily the best place to be. I am hopeful, I'm optimistic that it's going to get better as more people go to the park in the future, I think that there is a lot of potential for growth, but what's there right now is really lacking, and ultimately I don't think anyone would spend more than a day there. At least I don't see why anyone would need to spend more than one day there. Unless you are someone who really is interested in visiting every single Disney park, or you really have a Disney craving, I don't really recommend it too much, because if you're from somewhere else around the world, you probably already have a better Disneyland that you have better access to already. And with everything else that there is to do in Shanghai, if you're only there for a limited time in the city, then you might as well spend the time doing other things, I think, going somewhere else. Thank you again for watching this video. I hope that you enjoyed seeing Shanghai Disneyland, and if you did, please comment down below what you thought about this video. Also, please like and subscribe to the channel, and look forward to seeing future videos.